Who would have thought that losing weight would bring up old trauma and start to make you feel completely vulnerable and exposed all over again? Well, it certainly has for me, and I honestly didn't even realize it until recently when I was doing a video for you guys about not recognizing the old me anymore, but yet I'm the same person and kind of grieving that person. And while I was doing that video, I had mentioned some trauma, and I have not been able to stop thinking about this since. And it has kind of made me dig a little deeper. And I wanted to share that with you guys today. So welcome back, my sunshiny friends. I'm here with my sunshine. I have been on a weight loss journey for going on 2 years now. I have lost over 80 pounds. And during that time, I have really peeled back a lot of layers of a lot of different things. So like I said, I did do a video earlier this week about not recognizing the 80-pound heavier me. And I talked about grieving that old person who protected me and so much of my life. And one really traumatic thing or traumatic event specifically that I have not been able or unable to stop thinking about since filming this video is the time I died. I'm not just putting this out here for views, for clicks. This is a true story. This is my story. So sit back, relax, and I will tell you about the time I almost died. So I did type a lot of this out, and it's a long one, so be prepared. Hopefully I won't keep you here too long. If this is not content that you're interested in, I apologize. You can come back another day, but this actually does resonate, and it does have to do with my weight loss journey way more than I realized. So yes, I died. Traumatic enough for you? I'm going to tell you this story again, not for views, not for clicks, but in hopes that it might help just one person. One thing that I have learned the last few months in sharing some different things with you guys is that it's been healing me as well. Typically, I get hyper focused on one particular topic, and like this particular topic, I got hyper focused on it and I couldn't get it out of my brain. And I sat down and I typed out what it is that I wanted to tell you guys, not in graphic detail, not in full detail, but I was typing out my feelings and my emotions. And basically, I use this channel as kind of a journal. And I come to a lot of realizations and a lot of understandings about a lot of different parts of my life during the process. Okay, so let me set the scene for you guys. I'm pregnant with my middle son. I'm 28 years old. I'm married. I have a 3-year-old. We are living at my grandmother's. She had a tenement. My grandmother lived downstairs. We lived upstairs, and we had moved in, and then there was another neighbor that lived across the hall from us. We had moved in with my grandmother because my grandmother was, I've told you guys this many times, my grandmother was diabetic and my grandmother was on dialysis. Another one of the main reasons why I needed to start losing weight, because I was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. My grandmother died of kidney failure, and I was living with her and we were taking care of her at the time. So more trauma. So I'm pregnant. I'm at full term at this point. I'm a couple of days before or a couple of days after my due date. I don't remember. And it's September. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. And I'm at home with my then stepdaughter. And my 3-year-old, and we are cleaning. We go outside, closed up the pool, raked the yard, dragged brush down to the pit area. I went upstairs and we had an attic, which is my bedroom was on one side. The other side was like a spare, and made an entire new bedroom for my stepdaughter. Did all of this. My then husband was had a severe drug problem. He died years later from drugs. He was not home at the time. And I didn't realize until about 11 o'clock that night that I probably was in labor. My back had been bothering me, and I had definitely gone into nesting mode at this point. So it's about 11 o'clock at night, and I lived in Rhode Island. My mom lived in Massachusetts, and my grandmother's downstairs. I'm hoping that she's asleep. And I'm like, oh, I think I'm in labor. I start trying to call my mom. At that point, this is 2000, and AOL was a big thing. Dial-up was all we had. So I'm calling my mom, and I'm getting busy, big, and she's on the computer. And I'm like, what am I going to do? This was before like instant messenger. I couldn't just like get on the computer and message her. And I didn't have internet at that point. So I finally get a hold of my mom. Now she's going to come to another state. So it's late by the time she gets there. And, at that point, I think my husband is home. He's in bed with my 3-year-old, and we start walking the streets. So it's about 3 o'clock in the morning before my mom says, we need to go to the hospital. So she takes me to the hospital. It's a whole thing. My contractions aren't close enough. Back and forth, and they're going to send me home. Just as they decide to send me home, my water breaks. They test my water, and there's microbiome in the water. So they admit me. That was the beginning of 27 hours of labor. So to make a really long story short, they gave me an epidural. The epidural was not working very well, pain-wise. And all of a sudden, I'm laying there in bed. My mom is beside me, and I look up at my mom, and I'm trying to talk to her, and I can't speak. Nothing is coming out of my mouth. And instantly, my mom realizes something is not right. And at that point, I look to my left, and Bobby Joe, I remember this nurse, I remember her face like it was yesterday. She looks at my mom, and I close my eyes. And I remember noises, and I remember yelling, and I remember Bobby Joe pressing the button, and that was the end of what I remember. The next things I recall is opening my eyes, and every time I would open my eyes, at the foot of my bed, there would be people there. And I just remember thinking, okay, like I'm dead. Like, I don't know what else. Every time I opened my eyes, there was just white at the bottom foot of the bed and 2 people there. One time it was my dad and my sister. One time it was both of my brothers. Another time it was my aunt and uncle. And another time it was my sister-in-law and her parents. And my sister-in-law had been at the hospital with my mom. I don't know where she was at the point where I coded. She might have gone home at that point because she had a young one at home. I'm not really sure. But her mom and stepdad were at the foot of my bed. And I just remember thinking, well, I must be dead because why are these people here? Come to find out later, the epidural had numbed my lungs, the epidural went the wrong direction and started to shut down like everything, my lungs first. So they coded me. I coded, I died probably for seconds, rushed me into the emergency operating room, and they were able to revive me. The baby now is safe. So a couple of hours go by. I'm now still in labor, still no baby, had died at this point. Then they decide the epidural didn't work, they need to give me another one. That in itself was traumatic. The trauma of now having to sit up and take a chance of what had just happened happening again was horrifying. They do another epidural, and not too long after that, Bobby Joe again says, I need to call the doctor. The baby's heart rate is dropping. And I was like, what is happening? So the doctor comes in, my blood pressure is through the roof, but the baby's heartbeat is dropping at this point. And she says, I think we're going to have to do a C-section. I'm going to give you about a half an hour to think about it. And about 30 seconds later, his heart rate dropped so significantly that she said, you no longer have a choice. We're taking this baby out. And they rushed me again into the OR. At some point, I pass out from the trough. I don't know. I pass out. They wake me up with oxygen. And as I wake up, this doctor, who's not my doctor, by the way, my doctor's office is on vacation. So it's a new office. So I don't know this woman. She's about 5 feet tall, little itty bitty blonde. She's tiny, tiny little thing. And when I wake up down, strapped like this to the operating table, she is on top of me, and all I can see is her back and her hair. And I look over at my mother, because my husband at the time is basically passed out in a corner of the other room. And I'm confused. I don't understand what's happening. The baby's shoulder is stuck. And that was why I was in labor for 27 hours. He was never coming out. His shoulder was stuck under my pelvic bone, and she was trying to get his shoulder out from under, and from the floor, standing, being so tiny, she couldn't do it. So she was on top of me, straddling me, trying to pull this baby out. And I just remember opening my eyes and seeing her back and seeing this, and just, I thought at that point, we're both going to die. Needless to say, we both survived. He had ingested some meconium, so they took him now to the NICU. So again, anyone who has had that experience of their newborn being whisked away, that in itself is traumatic. So now we've just got trauma. We have emergency surgery. We've died. Our baby's been taken. I have no idea what is happening. He's a little small, which was strange because he was 5'7", I believe it was, but full term. So he was a little small, and he ended up losing some weight, and we had to get little baby preemie clothes to bring him home. And he went down to 4 change, and they didn't let him come home until he was a full 5 pounds. So that is the shortest version that I could possibly give you. So, okay, now I have the most beautiful blue-eyed baby boy. He's a little bit small, but he plumped up really, really quick. He started gaining weight super, super fast, so that was awesome. And I get to take him home. Okay, that's awesome. Mom goes into mom mode. I'm very protective of him. Fast forward nearly a year, and I have just now left my husband and this terrible marriage, and have moved to my parents' house, and I'm in the house doing dishes. The baby is asleep, and my now 4-year-old is outside with his cousin, his older cousin, playing in the yard. And I see a car come around the corner, and my ex-husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband, pulls into the driveway with my older nephew right there, grabs my son, puts him in the car, and leaves before I can even get out the door. He kidnapped him in broad daylight in my parents' driveway in front of me and my nephew. This ended in a high-speed chase with my son in the car. I was involved. I was assaulted. It was a whole thing. So needless to say, we had a little bit of trauma. My body went into overdrive, hyper protect mode for the next 12 to 15 years until he ultimately passed away. But even after meeting my now husband, moving to a new house that he knew nothing of, you know, with my boys, in more of a safe haven, I never felt safe again for my kids. I can remember putting contact paper stuff on our front door. If I come down my stairs, on each side of my door, there's windows. And I used to be terrified that I was going to come down those stairs and I was going to see the face. The other 2 bedrooms in the house were on the first floor. So when my husband and I first got married, I slept downstairs with my boys. Eventually, we added on and we moved bedrooms upstairs. So within 2 years, we were all able to sleep on the same floor. But it was traumatizing. My body just went into full-blown hyper protect all the time. And when I go through, the more I go back and I think about everything that I went through and I think about how I died, and I just became so watchful of my kids. I used to check their breathing constantly. My middle, who I had died giving birth to, developed a spot on his lung at one point as a baby. And they told me, you know, they were pretty sure it was cancerous. It was cancer. They were going to have to do more tests. And he was a little itty bitty thing at this point. And I'm by myself and I'm dealing with all of this. And he was fine. It wasn't cancer. It was pneumonia. And he then went on to have lung problems for all of his little tiny life for years and years. He had asthma. We had breathing machines, treatments constantly. If he got sick, it was rough. It was really, really bad. And you just go into hyper mode all of the time. And I started to pack more and more weight on. And I think it was the armor that I was putting on to be able to protect my kids the way that I felt I needed to. And I did not realize until just recently that that's really what was happening. And if I'm being real, what probably started to happen when I was 7 or 8. And I'm not going to go into childhood trauma. That's a whole other thing that I am not going to share here with you, but that probably started then. And I really, truly had no idea that that's what was happening until I did this last video the other day. And the more I thought of it, the more I was like, holy crap. I was just protecting myself and then my children. I think at one point I felt safer in a larger body, especially as a child. I think I felt less seen and less noticed. And then as an adult, I felt I could protect my kids more if I had this armor on me. If I was a little bigger, maybe it would be harder to take me down. Maybe I would be able to protect them more. Many years ago, my doctor told me that the trauma of dying and thinking that I was going to lose my baby, my nervous system said, nope, that's not going to happen, never again. And your nervous system just goes into protection mode. And I really, truly had no idea. Letting go of control felt very dangerous. And that's my now husband tells me all the time I'm a control freak. And I realize now that anytime I don't have control, I don't feel safe. It feels like a very dangerous area. I even began my 20 plus years in education for that very reason. My older son then goes to school, and we live in a very rural area, very country, very safe area. But I didn't feel safe him being at school, and I started volunteering and eventually subbing his kindergarten year, and eventually the principal gave me a full-time job in the school, and I continued in education to this day in the same school district. But I could not let go of that control. There was times, where I sat in my car in the parking lot after dropping him off at school, or I followed the bus to school and sat in the parking lot. I didn't realize how much the second trauma had affected me until now. I really thought it was just the trauma of dying and nearly losing my baby. Excuse me. So fast forward 25 years and I lost weight. And after 25 years of having my protective layer, having my body armor, I was losing it. And it started to trigger old fears. I find myself texting my boys a little bit more to make sure they got to their destination, make sure that they're okay. I stay up until my middle is home. He plowed all night last night. It was horrible. The storm started right after the Patriots game, which they won. So about 6:30, it had snowed all day, but they didn't call the plows out until about 6:30. So he texted me, he got the call, he's not coming home. It is, what time is it right now? It's 2:36. He got home about a half an hour ago. He's in the shower now. I went and talked to him. So he got home right before I started filming this video. And he's the one that I nearly lost during childbirth. He's the one that I spent numerous hospital visits with. He's the one that at 12 years old was diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease. And now I have to remind him and be on him to this day to go to the doctors, to take his medicine, to do what he needs to do to stay healthy. All of these old fears have definitely been exasperated by losing the weight. Losing the weight and losing my armor has just brought up so much fear that I didn't even really know I had anymore. I thought I was strong, and I am. Trust me, I'm a bad bitch. I know how much I've been through. And I am not looking for sympathy, for pity, for clicks, for views. I just really had no idea that losing such a significant amount of weight would start to make me feel so exposed. Like I was being seen for the first time, and it made me feel very unsafe. And it made me feel unsafe for my children. Again, like all over again. I started to realize that the 80 pounds was my protection. And I had been building it up for so long to protect myself, to protect my children. My weight was never just about food. It was about surviving something that had changed me at the core of my very being. Something that I literally survived that was so traumatic and so scary and so life-changing. And I'm not saying that this one incident is the reason that I was fat my whole life. Trust me that there was enough childhood trauma. And again, another day. But for a long time, the weight was there And when I look at it now, losing it wasn't a failure. It was my body trying to keep me safe in a world that once almost took everything from me. Evolving in weight loss isn't just physical, it's emotional. Be prepared for some emotions that you may have tucked deep inside for many, many years. My weight loss hasn't been about changing my body. It's been about teaching my nervous system that I'm safe now, that I don't need as much armor, that I can loosen the grip just a little bit. I am still super protective. I am still a mom who loves hard and deep, but I am learning that safety doesn't have to come with fear. It can come from trust, from healing, and from just being present. I know that I am not alone. I know so many women carry stories like mine silently for years and years. And I just want to say that you are strong. You are courageous. You are strong. You are courageous. You are amazing. If you or someone that you know is in an abusive relationship, please know that there is help out there. Start with your local police department. Many of them have domestic violence advocates. When I first moved back to my parents, they put me in touch with one. I didn't know that that existed. So check with your police department. If not, you can always call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 800-799-7233, and I will put the number in the description below. You are not alone. You are amazing. You can do this. My friends, thank you all so very much for allowing me to share my story with you. If you are in a situation where you need help, please reach out. I am so there and willing to help you. But I'm sure that there are so many people in your life, if you turn to, that would say the same thing. Thank you for allowing me to tell my story. Thank you for being part of my life. Thank you for your love, support, and encouragement all the time. I love you all so very much. Remember, my friends, even on those dark, dark days where you can't find the sunshine, you go out and you be the sunshine.